Hey everyone. So by now we're probably all familiar with the supposedly anti-fascist Antifa movement now. I wanted to point out the correlations between Antifa and Nazism. During the Third Reich, the Nazis went on book burning and anti-intellectual campaigns to suppress thoughts and ideas that they perceived as dangerous and harmful. As we all know, Antifa engages in very similar activities. The Nazis participated in many book burning events as well, and to my knowledge, Antifa hasn't crossed that threshold yet, but in a way, book burning is not as bad as preventing someone from speaking, which is what Antifa's modus operandi seems to be. If you burn a book, there will always be copies to replace the ones you've destroyed. It's an easy thing to circumvent. It's why I've always thought book burning was childish and pointless. But if you do what Antifa does and prevent someone from speaking at an event, you cannot go back in time and hear what they would have said. You can't retroactively have them speak at the event that never happened. It's an utter suppression of free thought and free expression, something that only fascistic philosophies gleefully take part in. Nazis also regularly engaged in character assassination and hyperbolic criticism of individuals they didn't like. This reminds me of the prominent Antifa figure Yvette Falarka. She was on Tucker Carlson's show, which I highly suggest watching on YouTube, and during her segment on Tucker Carlson's show, she claimed that Milo Yiannopoulos advocated for genocide. When she was asked to provide evidence or an example of him doing this, she couldn't provide one example or one shred of evidence. The Third Reich operated under this same fashion: throw insane accusations out and hope that they stick. Another striking thing about Antifa that absolutely drips with irony is that Antifa shows the exact same symptoms that Nazism does, in that they utilize violence to spread their asinine message. Violence is the last refuge of a person that has no ability to stand on their own two intellectual feet. I think of it this way: people like Ben Shapiro or Milo Yiannopoulos would probably love nothing more than to share a debate stage with prominent Antifa figures. This will probably never happen, however. No Antifa member will ever expose themselves in such a way, because even in their low-watt brains, I think they recognize that they would be utterly intellectually outperformed and outclassed. Because of their complete lack of cerebral acumen, they know that having a light shined on their philosophy, if you can even call it that, would only hasten the demise of their ridiculous movement. Instead of sharing a debate stage, Antifa members would rather burn it to the ground to prevent a spotlight being focused on their inarticulate preachments. Just as the Nazis had to enforce their empty vision through force and violence, Antifa has to do the exact same thing for the exact same reasons. They bring nothing of substance to the table. The final small yet significant thing I want to say is this. What I really hate about the Antifa movement is what they've done to anti-fascism as a legitimate idea. Anti-fascism should be a positive, uplifting, and freeing philosophy, but instead they've morphed the perception of it into an intellectually defunct movement. I will say this with absolutely no ambiguity. The single most anti-fascist movement on this planet is libertarianism. It's sad because if you're speaking to someone who doesn't know much about libertarianism, the moment you might say it's as anti-fascist as you can get, that person, through no fault of their own, may lump you in with these Antifa sociopaths. Not only does Antifa share more in common with fascists that they seem to be capable of perceiving, they took what was an amazing concept and shoved it right into the dirt. Thank you for listening.